Have you ever spent $10 and forgotten about it just a few hours later? A coffee before work, fast food because you didn't feel like cooking, a quick online purchase, a taxi instead of walking. On its own, it doesn't seem like a big deal. After all, it's only $10. But what if I told you that one small $10 decision, repeated over and over again, could quietly shape your entire financial future? Imagine two people. They earn the same salary. They live in the same city. They pay the same bills. They both dream of owning a home, traveling the world, and one day achieving financial freedom. From the outside, their lives look almost identical. But every day, they make one different decision. One person spends an extra $10 without giving it a second thought. The other pauses. Sometimes they spend it. Sometimes they invest it. Sometimes they simply decide that today's pleasure isn't worth sacrificing tomorrow's opportunity. At first, nothing changes. Not after a week, not after a month. In fact, the person spending the extra $10 often looks happier. They're enjoying life, buying little treats, living in the moment. Meanwhile, the other person doesn't seem any richer. No luxury car, no designer clothes, no flashy lifestyle. But here's where things become fascinating. The biggest financial changes are almost always invisible while they're happening. And that's exactly why so many people never notice them. Before we continue, if you're passionate about understanding the psychology of money, building lasting wealth, and learning the hidden habits that separate financially successful people from everyone else, subscribe to Kudi Wealth Creation. We break down the invisible forces that shape your financial decisions using psychology, behavioral economics, and real-life stories to help you think differently about money. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, hit the subscribe button and join us. Now, here's the part most people never hear. We like to believe that becoming wealthy requires one life-changing decision. Starting a successful business, landing a high-paying job, making the perfect investment. But that's rarely how wealth is built. In reality, financial freedom is usually the result of hundreds of tiny decisions that seem too small to matter. And the human brain is remarkably good at convincing us that $10 doesn't matter. That simple belief may be one of the most expensive financial mistakes you'll ever make, because the $10 decision isn't really about the money, it's about the habit behind it. So why does the brain treat $10 as if it doesn't matter? The answer lies in a psychological principle called present bias. Present bias is your brain's tendency to value immediate rewards more than future rewards. Imagine someone offers you two choices. You can have $10 today or $15 next week. Most people instinctively choose the $10 today, not because it's the better financial decision, but because our brains are wired to prioritize what's available right now. Thousands of years ago, that instinct helped humans survive. Food eaten today was more valuable than food that might come tomorrow. But in today's world, that same instinct quietly works against us. It convinces us that today's coffee is more valuable than tomorrow's investment. Today's online shopping is more satisfying than next year's financial security. And today's convenience is worth more than tomorrow's freedom. Now imagine two friends, James and Daniel. Both are 25 years old. Both earn exactly the same salary. Every weekday, James buys a specialty coffee and a snack on his way to work. It costs him around $10. Daniel enjoys coffee too, but instead of buying one every morning, he makes it at home most days and invests the money he doesn't spend. Neither of them feels rich. Neither notices much difference after the first month. Even after the first year, James thinks Daniel is overthinking such a small amount of money. "It's only $10, he says. But that's exactly the trap. Our brains are excellent at seeing the cost of one purchase. They're terrible at seeing the cost of repeating that purchase hundreds of times. Every $10 decision feels small, but habits are never measured once. They're measured thousands of times. By the time 10 years have passed, James has built a habit of consuming. Daniel has built a habit of investing. And that's the real difference. The money mattered, but the habit mattered even more. Because every time Daniel chose to delay a small pleasure, he was strengthening something far more valuable than his bank account. He was strengthening his ability to think beyond today. And that's one of the hidden traits shared by people who quietly build wealth. They don't win because they make perfect financial decisions. They win because they make slightly better decisions, consistently. That's the invisible power of behavioral economics. It isn't about changing your life overnight. It's about understanding how tiny choices, repeated often enough, eventually become the life you live. Here's the truth. The $10 isn't what changes your life. The decision does, because every time you choose what to do with that $10, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming, the person who spends without thinking, or the person who thinks before spending. Most people believe wealth begins when your income increases, but wealth often begins long before that. It begins the moment you stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "What is this money capable of becoming?" That's the question wealthy people ask differently. They don't just see $10, they see possibility, a future investment, a growing emergency fund, a business they dream of starting, a deposit on a home, a life where money is no longer a constant source of stress. Every small purchase becomes a silent trade, not between money and an object, but between today's comfort and tomorrow's freedom. Once you begin thinking this way, something remarkable happens. Impulse spending becomes much harder, not because you suddenly have more self-control, but because your brain starts seeing what it couldn't see before. Opportunity. You stop looking at the price tag, you start looking at the future. And that's when your financial habits begin to change. Not overnight, not with one perfect decision, but with hundreds of ordinary ones. One takeaway meal skipped, one unnecessary subscription canceled, one impulse purchase avoided, one small investment made, then another and another. That's how wealth is really built. Quietly, patiently, almost invisibly. The people who master these habits rarely look wealthy in the beginning. In fact, they often appear completely ordinary. They're driving older cars, using older phones, living below their means while everyone else is trying to look successful. Then, years later, people look at their lives and say, they got lucky. But luck had very little to do with it. What looked like luck was actually thousands of small decisions made consistently over time. So the next time you're about to spend $10, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself one simple question. Am I buying a few minutes of happiness, or am I investing in years of freedom? That single question won't just change how you spend money, it may change how you think, and the way you think will ultimately shape the life you build. If this video made you see $10 differently, let me know in the comments by typing, "Every $10 counts." I'd love to know how you're planning to make your next $10 decision. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Kudi Wealth Creation. Every week, we explore the psychology of money, behavioral economics, and the hidden habits that quietly separate those who build lasting wealth from those who stay financially stuck. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, financial freedom isn't built by one giant leap. It's built by small decisions made consistently. And I'll see you in the next video.